seeing you once
Sam.
again.
It is always a pleasure, buddy. How are you today?
Great, great. I am very excited for what we have in store today. It's been a little bit since we've done this last. Welcome once again, acolytes, enthusiasts of D&D, both in action and the nerdy bits on paper that we love reading out on this channel. Welcome to another subclass discussion meta talks from the Arcane Archive. We are back again discussing the changes, both good and bad, what we like and dislike from the 2024 Player's Handbook class changes. The D&D 5.5, as we've become,
It's
started calling
colloquially
it.
termed, like, I mean, let's be honest, that's what it is. It's just a 5.5. It's almost like a DLC
Yeah, it
for
is.
fifth edition,
It is a
basically.
DLC. Um, so far we've had some ups and downs, some good changes, some
Some absolute garbaggio and some that were
Yeah,
just like, hey, all
this
right.
works.
That
Okay,
was, yeah, that was a decision. That was a choice.
I'll play this.
Yeah.
Um, so I believe today we're going to be focusing on two classes. I believe Adam is taking the Druid.
I am
There are
indeed.
some hot button changes for that class.
Some little discussions here or there about some people's feelings about certain core aspects of this particular class. Also, saw a little treat for you all, students, is we have a brand new, never before seen or played subclass for this class now. So that should be interesting to go over. I'm not sure. Obviously, at this point, I'm sure people have played the class, and obviously, they most likely had, play testers for it or whatever, but you get the idea, is what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
brand new, never before seen until 24 and T4 edition 5.5.
I will be taking the Bard today, as that is a favorite of mine.
Our ever beloved bard.
I will also be talking about a brand new subclass, considering they ported over some of it, but not everything. Um, but before we get into it, please do not hesitate. Put all of your wonderful opinions down in the comments if you see fit.
We love dialogue here, as you no
Or yeah,
doubt have seen how much we can talk forever. We love dialogue.
yeah, I do love listening to just people talk about stuff, whether they agree or not with what I say. So I am all for that wonderful, wonderful discussion we could have here. Um, is there anything else I'm missing, Adam? I don't. I
No, I think you got it all, bud. As always, like, subscribe, share the
oh yeah,
content
that
and
part.
the channel and such, But other than that, I think we're good to go, buddy, whenever you are.
All right. Well, I guess I'll start us off with Bard today.
Yes, sir.
Um, as we all know, Bard, it is the one magic class that to me kind of it separates itself a bit from the other full casters. Kind of its magic being associated with the arts in some way, whether that's singing, playing instruments, drawing, whatever you want to classify it as.
Acting, dancing.
There's so many ways.
I mean, that's one of the beauties of Bard is whatever you can realistically and reasonably express in an artistic format of some sort, you can turn it into your personal flavor of magic, baby. That's one of the things we love about Bard.
But Bard was one of those classes that even in 2014, already pretty good. It had some shortcomings,
As all of them do.
mostly similar to Sorcerer in its actual just spell amount. It
Spell
didn't have as many
amount.
slots. It didn't have as many spells to choose
Yeah.
from.
You couldn't
Now,
switch them out
not really,
regularly.
and
And
some
even
of
their damage output also isn't the
was terrible.
highest, but
Um,
yeah.
the Bard was a support caster through and through. It was not a
100%. One
damage
of the best,
dealer.
though. One of the
Um,
best.
and
Still is.
a lot of the colleges of the Bard hinged on that, making them definitely more of a support character. There were some outliers, and you could, in theory, create kind of a midline spell sword type character,
You could.
especially through multi-class. There were some pretty great College of Valor multi-classes where you would get endless quiver and just shoot people all over the
There were all
place.
kinds of crazy combinations
And
people could come up with.
Bard was fun because similar to Rogue, it was someone that got expertise. They also
Yeah, it
benefited from Jack of all trades, which was just a general bump to all of their skills. So they were a skill monkey outside of combat. They are a
one of
charisma
the very
caster.
few
Yeah, they
specifically.
are a charisma caster, so they are a great face of the party, or as I like to play them, antagonist. No, but like they
Let's be
are
honest, everybody plays their bard just a little bit
yeah, but
antagonistic, just a little bit.
they are social characters, so they had skills and the social acumen outside of combat, support casting, light healing. You could play them as a ranged or melee character depending on which college you took. There were later on, with the book, like the new books that came out, like Tasha's and
Mhm.
Xanathar's, there were some spells that got added to their list that gave them more attack power.
Sure.
But that also it would be like you only have like one choice. So when I last Bard I used Dissonant Whispers throughout the entire campaign. Because it's
Hey,
not a great spell,
if it
but
ain't broke, don't fix it. It's
it's
effective though. It will
it's
always be
damage
effective.
and it's crowd control. But they're not known, they're not going to be throwing fireballs around unless you take the
No,
magical secrets, which is fun,
it is
but not
powerful.
not how you usually play those
It's
characters.
true. I mean, with Bard, the name of the game is literally versatility. They
Yeah,
are versatility incarnate. They are able to kind of do just about, I mean, hell, they have a literal ability that says as much, jack of all trades, right? They have the ability to basically do just about anything and everything. Maybe not quite as well or to the same intensity or effect as those who are obviously focused in those particular areas. But that's kind of the point of the bard is that they can do just about everything great. And they also do have some of their own focuses, such as, like Sam said, their socializing ability, their skills. Like again, of all the classes, technically Bard and Rogue are like the only two classes in the game. I think now technically in the 5.5 they have added like Ranger now. Ranger also gets expertise and stuff now. But before it was just Rogue and Ranger, or sorry, it was both Rogue and Bard who got basically expertise as well as specific class features and abilities that increased and were directly tied to their skills. Um, and so that was always one of Bard's biggest thing, is they were the skill monkey of the group, along with the rogue, as well as just being an all-around jack of all trades of just about
yeah.
everything else.
But the main issue with Bard was that they were not a prepared caster, like a paladin, cleric, druid. They were closer,
Wizard.
They were like a sorcerer.
Yes,
Except a lot of
Sorcerer and Bard
bards,
were very
but
similar.
bards a lot of times sorcerers would get bonus spells from their class, subclass. Bards didn't really get
Well,
that.
not all the time
Not
either,
all the
though.
time. We went over it. We went over it.
Yeah.
Bard
Sorcerer was
Bard
actually worse than Bard,
I
but
think Bard was in a similar spot where you really, really had to pick your spells
very
very
carefully.
carefully. And a lot of the spells they had access to were things like Lehman's Tiny Hut and stuff that would just help your journey, but you're now pigeonholing yourself even more taking spells like that. Like if you don't have a wizard in your group, if your main spellcaster is a bard, it's tough on the bard player. I this is something that I went through in
Yeah.
Tomb of Annihilation. We had a cleric at one point, but before that, I was the main spellcaster, and I was also the main healer, which, as you know, not really the best way. Like if I'm using my two spells per level on things like Lesser Restoration, having both Cure Wounds and Healing Word just in
Healing word.
case,
Yeah.
it was very limiting. Having Tiny Hut, like I didn't have any offensive spells for most of the game except for Dissonant Whispers.
Yeah.
I've still made it work. There are things you can get to alleviate that. Having someone with a Ring of Spell Storing, having one of the
Super helpful,
magical
especially
magical
back in the day.
instruments. The magical instruments are a big
They're
plus for
huge.
Bard, and they're
Yeah.
the only, in my opinion, they they are one of the better items you can get um, for any class. The magical instruments for bards are extremely powerful, and the reason being is that almost all the spells that they give you are not offensive spells. They're all
Support
whether
or
it's support or mobility, things like
yeah.
fly, invisibility, stuff like that that you don't necessarily
Hmm.
want to spend your
Spell
known spells
slots.
on.
Yeah.
Now, all of
Like, because
that
you got limited
changes.
spell slots.
All of that changed in late 2024 because the main thing that I'm pointing out right at the beginning of this table is that bards now prepare spells.
They
Now, this is a
can.
huge win for someone like me who loves bard, but also likes being able to change their spells all the time, because I'm a nuisance to everyone around me. Um, but the main, we'll start going over just what's different between the two, like between 2024 and 2014. The first thing that I'm seeing is prepared spell casting. That's huge. Um, After that, you get um it looks like they took out Song of Rest.
I believe they did switch out Song of Rest. Obviously another huge thing just to say right off the bat, and I'll also do this for probably we should do this for all the spell casting classes, and I believe we also did it for both for the wizard before as well and the sorcerer. All spell casting classes now, they just get a baseline amount of spells that they are able to prepare every single level.
Yeah.
Is with like they revamped the spell casting system now. It's no longer specifically class based, and in certain classes no longer get the benefit of being able to prepare more spells based off of their spell casting ability modifier. Um, it is just now you just get a baseline amount that you can prepare at any given level, which has vastly increased the, or I should say, it has vastly closed the gap between a lot of the older classes, spellcast classes that were pretty bad, specifically Bard and Sorcerer, and allowed them to really be much more of a contender between all of them. So Bard, and I believe also Sorcerer, yes, both of them now have a maximum at level 20, 22 spells. This is, I believe, for every spellcaster class except for Warlock and Wizard. For Warlock, for obvious reasons, because Warlocks do it differently. Wizard also maybe for a bit obvious reasons, because Wizards are also usually prized on their knowledge and being able to have versatility with their spells. So there is that to think about, which is really nice, really great boon and buff, in my opinion, that was
Well,
sorely needed.
the funny thing is, warlocks do prepare spells now though,
They do.
but they don't. They still only have 4 slots.
Yeah. Their slots are still technically
But I think they get more
limited.
invocations now, so it
I
is a
think so.
lot.
I think
There's a
they
lot.
help balance it out with that, but we can talk about Warlock another time.
Yeah.
But specifically here, yes, I do believe starting, first big change for Bard, they prepare their spells now too. Every long rest, you're able to switch it out with what you'd like, which is just nice. It's
Yeah.
just good.
But they removed Song of Rest, which eh. Song of Rest was kind of a
Oh, sorry, I misspoke. You can only switch out your spells after you every level up. Excuse me, for a bard. Same thing with sorcerer too now, actually.
well,
It says whenever you gain a bard level,
yeah,
you can
yeah.
replace one spell. So it's similar like it was last time. So you cannot technically change your spells every day
Wait.
with bard or sorcerer, but you can still switch them out a little bit easier now. That's still the same as it was previously. Uh, but back in the day, again, it was also just like,
Oh,
yeah,
wait, no, it's the same thing.
yeah.
So it's not like cleric.
No. It's not like cleric or wizard or druid where you can technically like switch up your spells every long rest. It's not like that. It is still the same before where you can still switch out your spells when you level up specifically. It's just simply now you have more spells at every level that you can technically have than you could before.
Yeah, it's just more.
Yeah, they just gave you more options, is what it is. So sorry, we misspoke there.
Yeah, I misunderstood. That's fine.
But again, that's still great. Again, like I said, that is the boon of that is that one thing too about Bard and Sorcerer in that regard is it also just makes things simpler, right? Is with Cleric, Druid, Wizard, you have access to the full totality of the list. I mean, not as much for Wizard because they have to like find a lot of spells to be fair, but both Druid, Cleric, and Paladin all do. And so that can be maybe a little bit overwhelming at times, but with Sorcerer and Bard, you do have to be a little bit more intentional and strategic and specific about what you choose because you're only going to technically be able to switch them out once you level up. And you can technically only switch out one technically, but I don't think your GM would mind if you're really not having a great time that you can just switch out however many you want. I don't really see why you can't. I always thought that was a stupid rule. Regardless, you do have to be a little bit more intentional, but when you have those spells, you will always just know what you
Yeah,
got. You know what I
and
mean?
it's not a bad thing. They still get more than they used to.
Yes, they get, and
Um,
that was that was one of the biggest issues was that you couldn't only not prepare daily, but you also just had way less options than the rest a lot of the time. So it was like you were screwed over in two ways. At least here, these classes allow you to
well,
be a little bit more simple, straightforward, but you know what you got.
I mean, actually, it's kind of funny. They didn't really gain anything here.
Let's see.
Let's
Well,
see, five,
I think
six,
it's more so based
seven.
off of how a lot of their features can work now. Because, like, how, for
Um,
instance, bards get their bardic inspiration and how they can specifically use their inspiration nowadays.
yeah, but they don't have more spells than they used to. They still have the same amount, but
It's still 22.
it's still 22. But they get some jumps here. So it used to go like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now it's 4, 5,
9,
6, 7,
10,
9, and
yeah,
then
11,
10,
12,
11, 12,
14.
14, 15, 16, 17, like 16 twice, 17 twice, 18 twice, then 19,
Yeah.
20, 21, 22. So they've kind of changed when you get spells, which is fine. We'll see. I don't think there's any change to their amount of spell slots either. It doesn't look like it. I think it's about the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about the same. And like
Yeah.
the reality is, I don't have a problem with that because that was never the issue. It was just
No.
we'll see what else they get that kind of
Especially now
alleviates
that
some of
they've
that.
yeah, especially now that again that they've brought the other like prime class like caster classes down to the same level. Like now all every class again except for like warlock and wizard has the same amount of prepared spells now. Like they all follow this same exact formula of 22 at the max, or I believe it's 26 at the max for wizards. So wizards have I think have like four more spells than every other class at like level 20.
Yeah.
Um and so like, so there is that where it's like it's not just bard or sorcerer alone now who have that. So there is at least
Um,
that particular switch up which is helpful.
but yeah, so
Um
they changed a couple things. I believe the inspiration dice are the same.
I
Yeah.
think how they work are slightly different
Well, yeah,
now.
but I meant like the amount.
Yeah.
But they removed something immediately that I noticed, and that's Song of Rest at level 2, which was just your short rests give you more health. It really wasn't anything great. Um, they then changed when you get expertise. So instead of getting expertise at third level, when you pick your subclass, you now get expertise at level 2, which is great for anyone who wants to multi-class 2 levels into
It's
Bard for
really
some reason.
awesome.
Um, in
Bardic Inspiration
terms,
now lasts for an hour instead of just 10 minutes,
yeah,
which is nice.
because it's now a D20 test.
Yeah.
There might, there might be more reasons to use an inspiration.
Well, I mean, technically, the old one was always any one ability check, attack roll, or saving throw.
Oh,
So
well
that
then,
technically,
so
yeah,
nothing's changed there.
yeah. But I do think, let's see, the number roll potentially turning. Yeah, but I think the creature can roll the inspiration die, um, before or after. I'm sorry, yeah, before or after. But I think you can do that before anyways too. Um,
Oh gosh.
yeah, you can do that before afterwards anyway. It is lost. Although, hang on. Yeah, so it's expanded when it's rolled. I know that there are some classes now for bards that like allow you to keep a bardic inspiration if you fail the test, whereas previously it was like no matter what, if you use the inspiration die, whether you succeeded or failed with it, you'd still lose the inspiration die. But that
Yeah.
might be a specific subclass that does that. I don't know if
Um,
that might be maybe an ability later on down the
yeah,
way,
we'll
but
we'll
either
see
way.
what it is. It looks like
Jack of all
Font
trades, you get right
Jack of all trades
away.
has been the same, so that's good.
You get it
Font
at
of
level 2,
Inspiration,
which is awesome.
yeah, Font of Inspiration is also at the same level, which is regaining your inspirations on a short rest. But there's a new thing, you can expend a spell slot without an action required to regain one or use of your Bardic Inspiration, which means you can do that in the middle of combat. Um,
Awesome.
which might make a difference.
That's they took a little bit from like the sorcerer for that,
Yeah.
like
The
with how
other,
sorcerers sorcerer points.
they now put counter charm one level higher. So instead of at level 6 getting counter charm, you get at level 7, but they also made counter charm
Better.
actually actually worthwhile.
They
Um,
actually made it, yeah.
the changes, it's you can use musical notes or words of power to disrupt mind influencing effects. You or a creature within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw against an effect that applies the charmed or frightened condition. You can take a reaction to cause the save to be re-rolled, and the new roll has advantage. Now, the old one was
Oh my
you
God, the
use
old one
an
was
well,
dog
it
shit.
was hard to use. So it
It
was
was
an
impossible
action.
to use. You couldn't actually use it.
It was an action, and it applied to you and any creatures within 30 feet of you. Um,
Any friendly creatures
yeah,
specifically.
but now it's one target and it's a reaction. Now, that might sound like that should have just been how it was before, or maybe have both of those as options. Here's the deal. The action economy for a spellcaster is like really hard to it's hard to like be like, okay, do I sacrifice casting something to maybe have a friend of mine um save on their frighten? Maybe. Or do I use my action to cast spells and now I get to use my reaction to help somebody out? If you're a bard, reactions are not nearly as important to you as the martial classes, just because your reaction, depending on what kind of bard you are. But if you're a spellcaster and you don't have warcaster, you can't really use your reaction for spells, so that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
I like this change because I think in all the time I played Bard, I not once did I use Counter Charm.
Nobody ever did because you had to always see something like that coming because you had to use an action first off to do it, and it was something that like you had to basically do like ahead of time. Whereas instead of it being like, oh hey, because it basically just gives you advantage on saving throws against being frightened or charmed, and it only lasts until the end of your next turn. So it's technically basically like 6, maybe 8 seconds. It wasn't even like, oh, so again, you had to see it coming. It was literal dog shit. No one ever could use this shit effectively following words as written. It was just impossible. And so, yes, obviously, the fact that they made it finally into a reaction at least that's something. And here as well, it is also only specifically predicated on if the target, either you or a separate creature within 30 feet of you, have already failed the save. And then you get to reroll at advantage for either charmed or frightened. So it's like you technically get almost like super advantage at that regard. Like you roll, you're able to roll 3 times instead of it basically just being like, oh, wait a minute, I have to figure out if they're doing it. Because again, if say for instance somebody cast charm or frighten on you back in the 2014 edition, you couldn't use your counter charm until after they had already cast the spell. And so if your friend fails already, plus they also had to be able to hear you to get this benefit, like it wouldn't matter, right? Like I guess you could technically, if they could make another save to get out of frightened or charmed, you technically would give them advantage then, but that would be difficult to do. Like again, if a creature is charmed, you can attack it, which might make them uh switch or give them a chance to get out of the charm, but again that would cost your action,
The
which you
hard
could
one
also,
was frightening effects also tend make people run in different directions.
yeah, like
And so
frightening you couldn't get close to the monster, and also frightening you couldn't technically force them to not be afraid anymore, right? You couldn't, it's not the same as charm. You couldn't hit them and then they'd get knocked out of the fright, give them another chance to
no.
roll. So
It's I like this change. I think it's more streamlined.
agreed.
It's gonna be it's also like you don't have to just use it when because you can use it when they fail.
Exactly.
So say you have two people, one and you're like, well, I don't know if they're gonna fail, and then one of them doesn't fail, and then when the other one fails, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
like, and
and then you stop it.
that's kind of what I like about Bard is a lot of it. It's It's this like I can bolster you and you can save this for when you need it.
Yeah. It's the clutch class, man. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the clutch up class. When shit is getting down, you gotta lock in. It's like Bard is the saving goat, man. When you need that fucking support. Um and so yeah, obviously we love this buff. I personally will absolutely state that this is an all-around buff to counter charm because 2014's counter charm was legitimate dog shit. There was no way, shape, or form you could actually effectively use it unless you were allowed to tweak it. Like
Yeah.
that was basically it.
The next big change is magical secrets.
Yep.
So now instead of getting magical secrets at 10th, 14th, and 18th level, um, you get at level 10, you get magical secrets. You learn the secrets from various magical traditions. Whenever you reach a bard level, including this level, and the prepared spells number in the bard table increases, you can choose any of your new prepared spells from the bard, cleric, druid, or wizard spell lists. Now, what that means is even when you switch spells out, they can be from any of the four lists.
Yep.
That's a lot of spells.
That's a
Um,
shit ton of spells to choose
but
from.
now, but the thing with magical secrets before was that you got extra spells on top of it, so you actually got more spells than before.
Mhm.
Now you are again with the changes that everyone now kind of has closer together. It's gonna hurt. It hurts when I read it. It hurts, but now that everyone's closer together, I don't think it's gonna feel as like icky when someone else has all of these things they can do, and you only have you only have the 22. It still gives you the option to pick from three of the largest spell lists in the game, being Cleric, Druid, and Wizard.
Yeah.
Bard's always been one of the shorter spell lists.
Yep.
I don't know how it stacks up now because a lot of things have changed since the last time I've read through the spell lists.
It's true.
But being able to pick from all four is huge.
Yeah.
There is a lot of overlap, but not as much as you think. And
There's plenty of and again, I think they have deliberately added a lot of more signature spells for classes now. Again, case in point, Sorcerer has gotten like a lot more like
yeah,
actual signature spells to beef up their spell because Sorcerer was also one of the smallest spell lists back in 2014. On top of the fact it had the lowest amount of spells you could learn. You couldn't prepare, couldn't switch them out, daily. So it was like they were just getting screwed in every avenue. But at least
yeah,
now they have been given some signature spells, and some of them seem to be pretty powerful and badass from my
yeah.
experience, from what I've been using myself, actually.
What I love here is the spell list they chose. Cleric and Druid have a lot of support and healing, as well as some cool stuff they can do. Wizard has utility and a lot of firepower.
Yep.
So they're giving you a lot of options for where to take the character. Um, Now, what's really funny is the next change is level 18. What they get at level 18, they used to get at level 20, which is Superior Inspiration. Whenever you roll initiative, you regain extended uses of Bardic Inspiration until you have two, if you start with fewer than that. You get the epic boon at level 19, and then at level 20, you get Words of Creation. You have mastered two of the words of creation, the words of life and death. Therefore, you always have the Power Word Heal and Power Word Kill spells prepared. When you cast either spell, you can target a second creature if it is within 10 feet of the first target.
I don't. Okay, so for those of you who might not be
That's
as,
two ninth level spells that you just have now.
for those of you who might not be as aware, of what this means. Yeah, like Sammy just stated, at level 20, you get access to two ninth level spells that you just always have prepared. It does not count against your spell list. Therefore, technically speaking, with this, I guess the bard would technically have
24.
24 spells, not including maybe any extra spells they'll get from their subclasses either. This right here as well, these two ninth level spells ain't nothing to sneeze at. Like I would assume even from just context clues that you got from what they're called, they are some of the most powerful spells in the game, for obvious reasons. The spell Power Word Heal. It is a ninth level spell with a casting time of one action and a range of 60 feet, and it is purely a verbal component. A wave of healing energy washes over one creature you can see within range, and the target regains all of its hit points, regardless of whatever state it is in. If the creature has the charmed, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned condition, the condition ends. If the creature has the prone condition, it can use its reaction immediately to stand back up. This is literally just a reset button. It's an extra life. It's a you're just good now at this point thing. To be fair, Power Word Heal probably isn't the best ninth level spell in regards to healing and such, because again, it only targets one. I think like, the actual spell, what is it? There's
Well, now
another
you can
ninth.
target two.
Yeah, but you can potentially target two people with this one if they're within 10 feet of each other. Alternatively, of course, you have the Antithesis, which is one of the most infamous, crazy, terrifying spells in all of D&D. I think all the way back, I believe even from first edition, this spell originated from. I'm pretty sure. If not, at least AD&D, I believe. But this spell is known as Power Word Kill. Same thing, ninth level, casting time on action, 60-foot range with verbal components. Like you might just imagine, this spell just literally compels one creature you can see within range to just die. just instantly die. So long as the target has either 100 hit points or less. They also changed it slightly though, because back in the day, it was just that. It was just if you had 100 hit points or lower at the time that somebody cast this spell on you, you just died. You were just gone, bro. No death saves, no nothing. You were donezo. But if you had 101 hit points or more, no effect. Nothing would happen.
Now it just does a shitload of damage anyway.
Yeah, now they switched it up, and now it's like if you do still somehow have 101 hit points or more, you're still gonna take 12d12 psychic damage on top of it. So I guess that's fair. I don't know. Like I'm not entirely sure how I felt about that particular change because this is literally just a fuck you in particular spell. Like
Yeah, that sounds like a great time.
like
If you want to kill a bear
to just
totem barbarian,
buff it. Like
if you want to kill a bear totem barbarian, bring Power Word Kill.
Like, yeah, just whittle them down enough. Just whittle them down to 100 hit points, and then they're gone. Like, and there's no save. There's no resistance unless you have, like, counter spell. That's it. That's the thing. And that's why I'm not entirely a fan of the fact that they just made it where, like, oh, hey, you somehow survived the literal instant death irresistible kill move. Well, you're going to take 12d12 psychic damage anyway for that. It's like, okay, all right. You're just being an asshole now. Like, this is now even more of an FU in particular spell. I love it, but I also hate it. It's kind of shit. But you could also, as a 20th level bard for 5.5, cast this on two people as long as they're within 10 feet of each other. And you can just fuck their day up.
I just want to become a spy as a bard. Just become like a court jester
level
or some sort of entertainer where you like dance in the halls at like kings coronations and stuff, and then you just get like the old king and the new king standing next to each other as they're like exchanging the crown, and it's just like death.
Literally, like take what is it?
Do it with greater invisibility so they can't see you.
Well, I'm gonna say greater invisibility. I was gonna say like even do it with take the feat, font of magic so you get sorcery points, and take subtle spell, and so you can just do it. Like nobody will even know that you did it. They'll just drop dead, and no one will even know that you did it. Like just you didn't have any components. Like you just literally looked at them, smiled maybe, and they just dropped. Like
I love the idea of like because it's only verbal, you don't have to move or do anything.
Yeah.
You can literally walk up behind two people.
As long as you're within 60 feet of them.
Well, no, just like walk up to behind two people, like you're serving at a banquet and just whisper death.
Yep.
And two people just drop dead right in front of you. Like, I know it's ridiculous because it's a ninth level spell, and that's kind of the point of ninth level spells. They're supposed to be fucking ridiculous.
They're godly in nature.
But like I love the idea of like
it's amazing. Like if you like think about the damage that a 20th level bard can do now with that kind of thing. Where you just walk into, they're just a stupid derpy jester or like, musician or an actor or a freaking mime or something. And just literally like walks up and just like drops two people instantly. can drop in a monarch of a kingdom, the highest level per like because most likely, even though you're a king, you might, unless you were an adventurer previously, you probably don't have more than 100 hit points at that time. So you're kind of at the mercy of this particular individual. I don't know what to tell you. It's incredible, but also absolutely shitty because it's just like, wow, dude. If you face an enemy 20th level bard now, this is gonna be a problem. This is problematic. But we do love to see that the bards kind of finally getting their dues for how effective the word can be. You know what I mean? Hey, cutting words has never been as real as it was at level 20 for bards in 5.5. Anything else you kind of want to talk about with bards, buddy?
No,
We want to go over the subclass now, I do
I was
believe.
gonna go right into the College
Yeah.
of Dance.
Dance!
I
It's a
want
brand
to.
new subclass, ladies and gentlemen.
All I want to do is dance.
You can't tell me not to dance,
Yeah,
Dad.
I think that's the character I'm gonna play in our Ebron campaign.
Kevin Bacon from
Yeah,
Footloose.
I want to play Footloose. So I'll read the starting text. Bards of the College of Dance know that the world's words of creation can't be contained within speech or song. The words are uttered by the movements of celestial bodies and flow through the motions of the smallest creatures. These bards practice a way of being in harmony with the whirling cosmos that emphasizes agility, speed, and grace. I love it. Because this also kind of, in my opinion, gives Bard like this idea of like these are athletic people. They're not,
Oh,
these
100%.
wimpy spellcat. They're like they're dexterous. They're
They're
athletic.
toned, dexterous, athletic. Yeah, like they can move, they can flow. Yeah, man. I mean,
Very
dancers are
fun.
some of the most like are like along with like gymnasts, some of the craziest body conditioned people in the world, bro. Ballet
Yeah.
is insane, man.
So
Oh my
here's
God.
let me see. So they get level 3. They get dazzling footwork. They when you aren't wearing armor or wearing a shield, you gain the following benefits. Dance Virtuoso. You have advantage on any charisma performance check you make that involves dancing. Now, the way I read that means I can just do that whenever I'm
Yeah.
dancing. So there's
Oh
gonna be a lot
yeah.
of. All I know is that there's gonna be a lot of gyrating going on.
Twerking, just twerk it up. Just
I'm
twerk up
twerking
that
everywhere. Now
storm. Just
it only applies to performance checks. So if they had just said any charisma check, that would be game breaking. Let me in.
yeah. Come
Give me a free
on.
drink.
Yeah, man. Don't you want to have me inside? I'm so fun. Aren't you impressed by my
Let me into your
dancing?
castle. Um, they also get unarmored defense based on dexterity and charisma.
That
Um,
goes heavy. That goes
yeah.
hardcore for bards, dude.
And in my opinion, you should have 20 AC baseline with this by the end of your character. You should have 20 dex, 20 charisma.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah, for sure, Z's.
Um,
I'm very happy that they have now given these particular types of like features to more classes now, aside from just the monk and the barbarian. Because I'm like, there should be more classes that utilize various different of their like primary stats for their, most important aspects, such as defense or offense or something. Like,
yeah.
I'm so happy they did this more. Like,
You also get agile strikes. When you expend use of your bardic inspiration as part of an action, a bonus action, or a reaction, you can make one unarmed strike as part of that action, bonus action, or reaction. Um, you get bardic damage, which you can use dexterity instead of strength for the attack rolls of your unarmed strikes. When you deal damage with an unarmed strike, you can deal bludgeoning damage equal to a roll of your bardic inspiration die plus your dex mod instead of the strike's normal damage. This roll doesn't expend the die. So here's what I'm thinking. It's not saying anything about the fact that you could just be unarmed anyway. So this is a punching bard.
yes,
Now
it's a monk bard. Makes sense.
you only get very limited punchies.
No,
You would
obviously
only
you're not a real, you're not a full monk. Okay, you're
you would
again,
only get at max if you want to use your action and bonus action 2 punchies.
you're like although well technically though, but with agile strikes, you get one more actually. Like
Um,
because I mean technically
yeah,
speaking, although I guess it
but
does
you have
say
not really. No, you'd have
when
to
you
use your
expend a use, yeah, because it says
yeah.
this doesn't expend the die, so never mind. Excuse me,
But
but
it's still fun to me. And no offense, like having a D6, then a D8, then a D10. That's not bad.
Although
Um,
with the next ability, you actually could get like a maximum of 3 strikes.
kind of, yeah, kind of. Um, you get inspiring movement. When an enemy you can see ends its turn within 5 feet of you, you can take a reaction and spend one use of your bardic inspiration to move up to half your speed. Then one ally of your choice within 30 feet of you can also move up to half their speed using their reaction. None of this features movements provoke opportunity attacks. Now, none of this features movements, which means your
Yeah.
friends can also move away.
Yep.
Now, what I'm thinking of using this for would be a guy moves up to me, and I have a friend that's like 15 feet away. I clap my hands, do the Egyptian around to the backside of the enemy, and punch him after my friend moves up in the front side and we flank. Um, so that would be good.
Or alternatively, you could also just punch him and then run away
Yeah,
as
either
part
way.
of as a thing too. Like if you want to get away from him, it doesn't say that you have to do one or the other right away. Like you can choose which one you're doing. It just says for agile strikes, you can make one armed strike as part of that action, bonus action, or reaction.
Yeah, the only deal
So,
is you have to move before your ally, which is not terrible.
yep.
You then at level 6 get also get tandem footwork. When you roll initiative, you can expend one use of your bardic inspiration if you don't have the incapacitated condition. When you do so, roll your bardic inspiration die. You and each ally within 30 feet of you who can see or hear you gains a bonus to initiative equal to the number rolled.
That's pretty fucking good. That is kind of fucking nasty, bro. Like, and
Yeah.
again, at level 6, Bardic Inspiration is going to be what? A D8? Yeah, it'll be a D8 at that point. So you could roll a 1, but you could also roll an 8. And if that's the case, depending on how high your dex already is, you could get anywhere between, if you have like say a 16 or 18 in dex, like you could get potentially 11 to a plus 12 to your initiative roll.
And like this is also helpful to anyone nearby.
That's what I mean. Just everybody, all allies within 30 feet, which most likely at the beginning of most combats, your allies probably gonna be within 30 feet of you. Like that's just
Yeah.
like, how it
Um,
works most of the time. Not every time, but most of
yeah.
the time.
And then finally, at level 14, you get leading evasion. When you are subjected to an effect that allows you to make a dex saving throw, take only half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw, and only half damage if you fail. If any creature within 5 feet of you are making the same dexterity throw, you can share the benefit with them for that save. You can't use this feature if you have the incapacitated condition. That's right. Bard has evasion now, and it can share it with his buds.
The dancing bar does
Yes.
specifically. But again,
It's
that's kind of
huge.
nuts. Well, again, to be fair, yes, this bard is literally it's just a dancing bard monk. It's literally just like a bard who really loves kung fu movies. Okay, this is what this bard is right here, ladies and gentlemen. He is like the epitome of like a really just uber super fan of kung fu movies, like we all are. Like we wish we could be this bard right here. You know what I mean? This guy is amazing. I love this so much. I appreciate the fact that they also gave more classes the ability to do like more unarmored type of attacks, like actual punching and kicking strikes. Because I like that a lot. I personally am always a huge fan of like, hand-to-hand combat. Like I love it a lot. Like I love swords, of course, big giant swords, dual wielding blades, finesse and shit, magic, obviously. But I also have a particular proclivity for hand-to-hand combat, as I am also a martial artist. I trained for a long time, and so yeah, it's got a particular soft spot in my heart and my soul. So I'm so happy they're expanding that capacity for multiple different classes. It's just, mwah, it is a beauty to see. It is just a beauty to see.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about playing this at some point soon.
Please
It
do.
seems like a very fun class. It doesn't seem
Doesn't
expressly
Yeah, I was
powerful
gonna say it doesn't
or
seem crazy strong or anything,
but
but
honestly,
seems like
the
a
thing with
lot of
Bard is
fun.
they are full spellcasters. Um and all of them have short lists of abilities because if you give them too much, like it's not really fair. Um the reality is it's gonna be a subclass where in between your casting spells and stuff like that, you're going to be kind of bugging people and moving people around and evading attacks.
Got tons of
Um,
control for this
yeah,
this
and that's
subclass. Tons of
even
control.
just within like helping your friends with an initiative, getting evasion and being able to share it. Um, let's
Just be like,
see.
step where I step, bud.
Inspiring,
Ha!
yeah, inspiring movement alone is something that you'll be able to use the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Tandem footwork and leading evasion also the rest of the game. Obviously, your unarmed strikes will hit a point of not being as effective unless you augment them with items. You won't be doing a lot of them because
You're probably gonna want to be casting
using
spells
spells.
more often.
Now if you are using things that expend your bardic inspiration,
Technically, if you use your bardic inspiration, give it to somebody, you are technically expending one of your. So you could technically, as
yeah,
part of that action,
every
unarmed
time
strike.
you if you bonus action give someone inspiration, you can punch someone in front of you.
Yeah.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
If you get like a what is it, the shadow tattoo where your
Yeah,
unarmed
your
strikes
punches
can
are
be
30 feet. Yeah.
feet, that would be cool. You also you just have ways to help your friends while dancing around a battlefield, which sounds hilarious. Um,
You're just getting stanky with it all
like
over your enemies, bro.
I,
You're
I gotta have
stanking on your
my
enemies,
I
bro.
gotta have my friend read
Do the
this subclass
stanky leg,
because
do
he
the
played a
stanky
dancing
leg,
bard that was
do
a
the
swords
stanky
bard.
leg.
He instead of playing an instrument, he just danced. So I was DMing like a one shot, and every time he used one of his abilities, I asked him what dance he was doing. So that this is a fun class. It's again, it's not this like crazy overpowered thing, but even having things like evasion, getting two of these abilities at level 6 means that you're gonna be pretty well off for a while. Um, and I like that. I like that a lot. I think this is good. Like Bard has had some good changes. I'm not I'm not super happy about the magical secrets change necessarily, but at the same time, it means that technically past level 10, any spell you pick up or change can be from magical secrets. So it's actually not a bad thing. It just keeps everybody in line,
No.
and you have a lot more spells to choose from.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, it's a lot of it is the same, except you get better stuff earlier for some
Yep.
things.
They did that with a lot of
Their
classes too.
capstone ability is much better.
They just
Um,
they heavied out the beginning stages where again that was one of the biggest issues that people like me had like with lower level D&Ds you missed out on so much of the coolest shit at early levels. You barely ever get up to fucking level 14 or 15 or God forbid 20. And it was just like, all right, well, what's the fucking point of having all that then? But they really front loaded a lot of the classes now, with abilities that were much later on in the line originally. So I think that was a great approach, uh, for Wizards of the Coast. One of the few in a while now, but I absolutely support that. Um,
I
Anything
think
else about the
no, I'm
beloved
very
Bard,
happy with
buddy?
this.
Me too.
Both this new subclass and the changes for Bard
I was
are
gonna say,
exciting.
one of my buds that were in a campaign currently that I'm with, he's playing the new Bard. I think he is College of Lore. I'm actually not entirely sure which subclass he took. He's either Glamour or Lore. Um,
Glamour got nerfed a little bit from its original
yeah,
because it was overpowered,
Glamour was kind of fucking crazy.
but it's still
Um,
good.
but yeah, because I think he's playing the new. I might be wrong. He could be playing one of the other the original 5e subclasses or whatever class, but I think he's playing with the new one, but I don't know. Either way though, he seemed like he's having fun with it. It's seeming pretty cool and awesome in terms of support and the like. And so all around, we'll say, hey, what would you like to rate the new Bard, Sammy, compared to the old?
Well, I already liked Bard, and I thought it was always a competent class. But it had some shortcomings. If we're rating it purely as just playing Bard, not multi-classing, not doing anything weird with it,
Mhm.
I think I would have given Bard originally maybe like a low B, just because at a certain point it falls
Like a
behind a
B
lot of other
minus?
classes.
Yeah.
And I think now it's a B plus or almost an A. I my issue right now with rating classes is that we lost about 6 subclasses from every
We did.
class.
They are
And
bringing out more though. Like they're already play testing a lot of the old one. Like I know
they're
like
bringing them
Blade.
back,
Yeah, I know a
right?
lot of Blade like Blade Singer being one of them. I don't think they make a lot of change to it, but they're bringing more of the subclasses back again
That's
in
I kind of want
updated
to hold out
format. Yeah.
because I think just as the class without the subclasses, Bard is looking fantastic.
Hmm.
But I miss a lot of the other subclasses
Yeah,
for every
agreed. For
class.
every class,
For
I
every
agree.
class.
I
I
agree.
do miss like there's a lot of them that I really like. Like College of Spirits.
Spirits
I
is
would love
amazing.
I would love to have ported over this. A lot of it. It's just I wanna see what they do with all of those before making my final judgments.
That's
But
fair. Well,
I
I mean,
think I
as
think
of
Bard
now, as
is
of right
really,
now,
really solid.
yeah.
I think it does its job as a spellcaster really well. The expanded spell list is really important.
True.
So now I'm just waiting. I haven't played really any of the new classes yet, any of the like the redo
Yeah,
because
yeah,
we
yeah.
haven't switched over to 5.5 yet. Um,
I have
we're
been.
planning on
I've
it. We're
yeah.
close. We're so
I
close.
have and but granted I've only played two classes technically so far up to this point for the new 5.5, but I have been staunchly enjoying both of them so far. That I've been playing. So I'm strangely incredibly optimistic to see what they have coming. And I know a lot of people for whatever reason were super pissed off and annoyed that they're just like, oh, they're changing. We're gonna have to spend all this money and all the new books again, and that. It's like, well, sure, but that's literally how it's been for years, though. I mean, there's a reason why we're on fifth edition instead of just for like, they're making new stuff. They're and there's a lot of stuff that a lot of people were complaining about in regards to original 5 or 5e, where there were certain issues and problems, and so 5.5 it's like, yeah, you know what, why wouldn't you want to get some of the updated stuff? Like, yeah, you could just do it on your own, of course, but people were then always complaining about how rules as written was always an issue or contention. But now, well, they've made a lot of great changes and updates, and I'd say definitely for the better. I appreciate the fact that they really are making classes like more powerful, grandiose, kind of superhero-esque in a way. Like classes are in a lot of ways just way more epic than they were before. The fact that they literally brought back epic boons as a pretty consistent like mechanic now that's just there for you at level 19. You can just do that now if you want. Um I love that. And so, with that being the case though, well, you're saying probably Bard in its current state, you'll give it maybe like a solid B plus, maybe even like an A minus. I would agree. I would say based off of just what we've got here in regards to like, the College of Dance and its other subclasses, like I'd say Bard is a pretty solid B plus to A minus class in regards to its capacity. I mean, again, the fact it is one of the most effective skill monkey classes in the game compared to any other class, like you will always have an amazing fun time if you have a bard character in the party. It is a done deal. Or you'll have, conversely, the absolute shittiest, worst fucking time you could ever imagine with a bard player in the party, depending on who they are. But regardless, that alone still shows the capacity for the bard to have the effect that they do in any game that they're a part of. Like that shows the bard's influence and strength. No matter what, they are gonna leave a very powerful impression. Um, but with that being the case, let's go ahead. Let's move on to our next subject of the day, students, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting into 5.5's new revamped Druid class. There's been a lot of contention, a lot of debates and talks about the new mechanics and systems for the 5.5 Druid compared to the first. Um, right off the bat, right away, everything is basically still the same. You get a D8 for your hit die. Your primary ability is going to be Wisdom. Your saving throw proficiencies are still Intelligence and Wisdom. I believe all of your skills that you get are still the same. Arcana, Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Religion, or Survival. You still only have proficiency with Simple Weaponry. You still you're proficient with an Herbalism kit, which is great. And yes, you are still proficient with light armor and shields, which is great. Starting at level 1, same thing with every other. Sorry, I shouldn't say starting at level 1, but starting out with your spell table and everything. Again, same as every other spell class, full caster class. You get 22 spells at your max level of 20, not including any additional spells you might get from subclasses and other features and stuff. But that's great. Starting at level 1, you get your spell casting. You get your normal 2 cantrips. However, now, of course, they're implementing, I believe, for all of them now, all spellcasting classes, that they changed it where it used to be for cantrips. Once you chose your cantrips, unless you were like a wizard, and this was only like later on, I think when they introduced Tasha's, you could not switch out your cantrips. You just had those cantrips for the entirety of your character's existence. Like the cantrips you chose were just the ones you had until you leveled up and got like another one. You couldn't switch them. Now they switched it overall for any class, I believe, that has cantrips, is whenever you level up, you can replace one cantrip with another one of your choice from your spell list. Unlike, of course, the bard and the sorcerer, you are actually able to change your list of prepared spells every day, or specifically after every long rest. And any amount of them, not just one. You can literally completely change up your entire spell list basically daily. Really helpful, really great. Again, shows the versatility of being so enmeshed in magic and nature and everything for the druid. It's awesome. At level 1, they changed up a little bit, because before, obviously, like they changed up a little bit how like languages work, I've noticed in 5.5. You don't necessarily get access to as many languages innately as you were maybe able to before. They made it a little bit more free-form, but also therefore cut down on the quantity based off of but you can more effectively choose what your characters would know in terms of languages. But specifically though, for druids, wouldn't really be much of a druid if you couldn't, speak Druidic, the ancient language of the druids. So now, as with before, you can speak the language Druidic, and you and others who know this language automatically spot such a message instantly if it is written in this hidden message language. And others spot the messages present with a successful 15 perception check, but they cannot decipher it without magic. That's nice. Still basically the same thing as before. Let's see here. You get the ritual casting tag, which is great, because I don't think bards get ritual casting either, right? And the update, I don't think they also get it. Interestingly speaking, sorcerers do get it now, which is really cool. Interesting. They did not used to get that. But with that being the case, we get to probably the biggest controversy for the druid specifically, very akin to the paladin's divine smite. We get to our bread and butter, one of the hallmark staples of this class, and that is your wild shape at level 2. Things have changed, ladies and gentlemen, for the druid's wild shape. Starting at level 2, you can use your action to magically assume the shape of a beast that you have seen before. So far, still the same. You can use this feature twice. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one here. Excuse me. Sorry, I was actually reading from the old Druid. My fault. I was completely wrong. Druidic in the new edition actually gives you not just everything from the old, but you also get the ability to speak with animals. You always have the speak with animals spell immediately prepared. Everything else is still the same, except for the necessary check to decipher Druidic is an investigation check now instead of a perception check. But you can't decipher it without magic. You also gain at level 1 an ability known as Primal Order. You have dedicated yourself to one of the following sacred roles of your choice. Either the Magician, one extra cantrip from the Druid spell list. In addition, your mystical connection to nature gives you a bonus to your intelligence, arcana, or nature checks. This bonus equals your wisdom modifier. So now, if you technically take this primal order, you can it makes sense for you to take arcana now. Whereas before, it was less of a real thing to do because you use wisdom. You don't really need to use intelligence, right? You could also usually focus more on constitution for your constitution saves or your dex for your, AC and other attacks and stuff. But with this, now that you can add your wisdom modifier to both arcana or nature, which are both intelligence-based checks, because as a fucking druid, me and Sam literally had a whole thing about this in regards to the druid that you should fucking know nature and probably also arcana, maybe to a lesser extent. But you should goddamn well have a high nature check, for God's sakes. And with this, you can. The other primal order you can choose is the Warden. Trained for battle, you gain proficiency with martial weapons and training with medium armor. So really, it just depends on whether or not you want to be, more of an upfront, in-your-face kind of druid with Warden, or you want to be more of a book smart, kind of in touch with nature and magic druid. Really nice. I do appreciate those two. But again, as we were saying before, at level 2, you do still gain your wild shape, and it is slightly different this time. For real this time. For realsies. I won't fuck up this time. The power of nature allows you to assume the form of an animal. This time, however, instead of it just being Circle of the Moon druids, all druids now get access to their wild shape as a bonus action. However, you shapeshift into a beast form that you have learned for this feature. So essentially, you have a specific number of or specific like stat blocks and forms that you just know that you can basically turn into. So it is not the same as 2014. Again, I misspoke, where you basically could assume the form of any beast that you had seen before. Any beast creature. Now it's a little bit more almost like Beast Boy-esque. Like if y'all remember that old episode of Teen Titans when he like assumes that almost like a werewolf type form, where it's like a fusion of like multiple different kind of beasts and creatures into one form, and it was just kind of his like, his like berserker wolf form thing or whatever. It basically was like a werewolf. But I kind of view the new druid almost akin to that, where it's like a mixture of like your beast form can kind of be, I think, whatever you want it to be, just flavor wise. And it just gets the various different effects or things that you might need from it for whatever reason. You stay in that form for a number of hours equal to half your druid level, or until you use wild shape again, have the incapacitated condition, or you die. You can also just leave the form early as a bonus action. Number of uses. You can use your wild shape twice. You regain 1 expended use when you finish a short rest, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Now, I believe that is also differently. Or actually, no, never mind. I think that was the same before. I think even in the old one, you could also get your uses back from a short rest. So that's nice. You gain additional uses when you reach certain druid levels, as shown in the wild shape column of the druid features table. So that's new. You didn't used to get additional uses. You just had 2 unless you were like until you got to like your 20th level ability, your archery ability, which has allowed you to transform forever. You only had 2 uses though, normally. So this is nice that you get more uses as you level up. Just makes sense. They should have had it like that before. But either way, moving on to the known forms. 4 beast forms for this feature, chosen from among beast stat blocks that have a maximum challenge rating of 1/4 and that lack a fly speed. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace one of your known forms with another eligible form. When you reach certain druid levels, your number of known forms and the maximum challenge rating for those forms increases, as shown in the beast shapes table. In addition, starting at level 8, you can now adopt a form that has a fly speed. So essentially now they just kind of streamlined it because, again, the old druid, one of the most annoying kind of things is that you had to constantly, hoard stat blocks for any and every beast that your character may have seen up to that point, right? So if you wanted to turn into a dolphin or a hawk, you had to go and you had to find that specific stat block for that specific beast. You didn't just have like, a go-to thing. It wasn't all just like, referenceable right away from your from your character class or whatever. So they basically, I think, just tried to streamline it and make it a little bit easier to reference here. So they basically just took, beast shapes and forms here and were just like, here, you can now just reference it. It also does say, however, when choosing known forms, you may look in the monster manual or elsewhere for eligible beasts if the dungeon master permits you to do so. So you still technically can do that if the dungeon master allows it, to be fair. At level 2, you know 4 beast forms to start, as it says. At level 4, you know 6 beast forms. And finally, at level 8, you know a maximum of 8 beast forms. So again, though, they did, I believe, like uh limit the amount of forms you can know now. You can only know a maximum of 8 at this point. However, like it says before, I do believe that you technically can switch those out. Whenever you, yeah. Although I think actually no, I think it is just a maximum of 8 forms that you know, and you can switch out which form you will turn into after a long rest. So you have to choose what form you want to have prepared that day. So it functions like a spell from what it looks like. Which is interesting. So it does vastly lower the druid's versatility and flexibility quite a bit. If you have to literally, you can only choose one beast form that you can go into, like basically per long rest. Which is a little unfortunate because one of the best, coolest things about Druid was being able to be like, you know what, I'm just going to turn into an ant real quick to get out of here. Or I'm going to then transform into a falcon now to fly away, but now apparently you have to choose one shape for the day, which, yeah, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that. That's a little annoying. That's rather limiting, but all right, whatever. Rules while shapeshifted. While in a form, you retain your personality, memories, and ability to speak. That's something brand new. You can now technically speak as an animal. You couldn't do that before. You also have the following rules apply. Temporary hit points. When you assume a wild shape form, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to your druid level. Okay, so you technically do still use your own HP, I guess, but you just gain temporary hit points equal to your druid level. So I guess technically at level 2, you'd only have 2 temporary hit points for your beast forms.
Oh no, I mean you can still have, so your known forms is what you can turn into.
Yeah,
So you
that's
can
what I
still
mean.
have like a flying form, a swimming form,
Yes, you can shoot, but
okay,
my point being is though you don't just have access to any
any form.
creature that you can
Yeah.
think of, that you've seen before. It's like, again, you would specifically have to take up like one of those 8 slots at level 8 total to basically be like, I'm going to give one of those slots, like a termite or an ant. And I'm going to give another slot,
I mean,
a
there's
hawk or
also
whatever,
like
which is like,
there's no reason why you couldn't ask your DM, hey, can I switch out one of mine?
yeah. But it's also the thing being, though, is that you could only choose one of those forms basically a day. Like it's one of those forms per long. That's the biggest caveat. I wouldn't mind having just 8 forms that you just know because
No, no, no.
again,
Wait, where does it say?
it says when you reach certain druid levels, da 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 da. Whenever known forms, whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace one of your known forms with another eligible form.
Yeah, but like that's still 4 forms at level 2 that you'd always have, and then 6 and then 8. So it's not that like during a day you could change into any of those forms,
Oh,
right?
maybe I'm
Yeah, I
misreading
think you're
that.
misreading it. It's
I may
just
have
that,
misunderstood then. Yeah, I
sorry.
thought you could only
At
do
level
it.
2, you'll have 4 different things you can turn into. At level 8, or at level 4, you'll have 6.
And
At
level
level 8,
8,
you'll
you'll
have
have
8.
8.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, you at any point throughout the day, as long as you have uses, you can
You can,
transform
yeah.
into any of your known forms.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I
I
was, when you were
was
talking about that, I was like, I'm reading it, I'm like, I don't
like
think that's what it says.
this here right here confused me. It says whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace one of your known forms with another eligible form. That
So
made
now
me
it just means that you only have 8 at that time,
yeah.
not that you can't change them out day to day.
Yeah,
So
okay.
there is that. Like once
So
you see a new
you
creature
could
that night,
yeah.
you can add that to your repertoire and take out another one.
Yeah, okay. That makes more sense then. All right. I was a little confused there for a moment because I was like that seems
I think it's just a
really
better way to keep.
limiting.
It's a better way to keep them organized because
Agreed. Yeah,
now you have to have the
it's
stat blocks and all that shit.
yeah, that's
Like
what I mean.
it's
I did appreciate the fact they're trying to streamline it because, like I said, it can be a little ridiculous when you just have like 42 different stat blocks of like different beasts that you're just like, I may or may not transform into this or whatever. But no, okay. If that is the case, that is much more agreeable, and I'm like, all right, I can fuck with that. That's all right. They also made it so that the ability to transform into a flying creature. Limitations, max CR of 1. No, never mind. I think it is actually still the same as the old. At level 8 was when you could do that. Okay, perfect. Well, glad to hear it. You get temporary hit points or on top of your game statistics. So your game statistics are now replaced by the beast stat block, but you retain your creature type, hit points, hit point dice, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores, class features, languages, and feats. So yeah, you still are using your own hit points. You just gain additional temporary hit points on top of your original hit points. You also retain your skill and saving throw proficiencies and use your proficiency bonus for them, in addition to gaining the proficiencies of the creature. If a skill or saving throw modifier in the beast stat block is higher than yours, you use the one in that stat block instead. So just basically whichever is higher. If you're like, if you, for instance, if you're a druid who has like, 9 strength and you turn into a bear who has like 18, you'd use the bear's stat block instead of your own. Or the bear's strength instead of your own. No spell casting. You cannot cast spells, but shapeshifting doesn't break your concentration or otherwise interfere with a spell you've already cast. Okay, I believe that's technically the same as it was before. Objects. Your ability to handle objects is determined by the form's limbs rather than your own. In addition, you choose whether your equipment falls in your space, merges into your new form, or is worn by it. This is the same as before. Worn equipment functions as normal, but the GM decides whether it's practical for the new form to wear a piece of equipment based on the creature's size and shape. Your equipment does not change size or shape to match the new form, and any equipment that the new form can't wear must either fall to the ground or merge with the form. Equipment that merges with the form has no effect while you're in that form, so keep that in mind. You
All I'm
don't
saying
get
is get
like,
a lot of robes because
yeah,
robes can be worn as scarves.
yep. We're like robes, hoods, belts or whatever, like stretchable material, maybe. Um,
Or commission some crazy magic items.
that too. That can grow or stretch and change, depending on your size and shape. At level 2, you also get Wild Companion alongside your wild shape. You can summon a nature spirit that assumes an animal form to aid you. As a magic action, you can expend a spell slot or use a use of wild shape to cast a find familiar spell without material components. That is awesome. When you cast a spell in this way, the familiar is fey and disappears when you finish a long rest. So basically, just every day, you can just have a find familiar. Which again, I always found it ridiculous that Druid didn't have some form of this. Technically, they do. I think with the addition of Tasha's Cauldron, they literally gave them the optional feature of being able to do this. They now just made this feature a permanent fixture for the Druid, which I'm very happy about because they deserve it. Because obviously, how are you going to be a Druid and not able to have your own fuzzy little buddy or furry or furry little buddy or feather little buddy? Either way, whatever it is, Druids deserve little buddies. Level 3, you get your subclass. Level 4, ability score improvement. Level 5, you get the ability known as Wild Resurgence. This is something that is brand new. This ability, once on each of your turns, if you have no uses of Wild Shape left, you can give yourself one use by expending a spell slot. No action required. In addition, you can expend one use of Wild Shape, no action required, to give yourself a level 1 spell slot, but you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. I believe this is a like reconfigured kind of version of the old Moon Druid's ability, essentially to like use spell slots for your Wild Shape and your Wild Shape for spell slots. I don't think that the old Moon Druid could technically get back like spell slots from their wild shapes, but usually when they were in their wild shapes, they could expend spell slots to help them heal. So I think this is kind of like an inspiration on that, just allowing you to better utilize and provide more uses of your wild shape at the cost of your magic. Which I think is great. Again, it's awesome being able to like, reallocate your resources to whichever specific area that you might feel like you need more so in that time. Gives you a little bit more versatility and flexibility, which we love. Next up at level 7 is Elemental Fury. The might of the elements flows through you. You gain one of the following options of your choice. Potent spellcasting. You can now add your wisdom modifier to the damage you deal with any druid cantrip. It's okay. Primal Strike. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with an attack roll using a weapon or a beast form's attack in wild shape, you can cause the target to take an extra 1d8 of cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. You get to choose when you hit. This is definitely very much based off of the Moon Druid's ability, because they also got stuff like this in their wild shape where they've got elemental bonuses and damages to their wild shapes or wild forms. Which is ironic because they're literally just buffing the base druid with the old moon druid's abilities, or at least with a lot of the old moon druids kind of structure and format, which is kind of hilarious because the moon druid was far and away one of the most broken, busted OP classes in the entire game of original 5e. Like it just was. It was just one of the most power. It just always was. So, I mean, either of those are okay. Again, it really is just kind of further digging into the concept of, are you going to be more of a magic spellcasting druid? Or are you going to really get deeper into the more like, uh, primal, like, savagery attacking kind of druid here? So, again, it's just a little bit of extra bang for your buck, depending on which path you diverge towards. I don't really know if druid cantrips are really that powerful or great. From what I recall, like they're not like, wizards and sorcerers where their cantrips are very focused on damage. You know what I mean? Most of the time, I'm not really sure you're really going to be casting druid cantrips outside of or in combat. I think a lot of time most people are going to take druid cantrips that are for more environmental purposes outside of combat. You can maybe, use them in combat if you are smart and more strategic about it. But Primal Strike probably makes the most sense, especially if you're going to be, turning into your beast form a lot. Kind of just helps, gives you an extra 1d8 of just elemental damage, which is helpful. Moving on from there, all the way now at level 15, you get improved Elemental Fury. Which basically just gives you more potent spell casting. So when you cast a druid cantrip with a range of 10 feet or greater, the spell's range increases by 300 feet. Okay, sure. And your primal strike just simply increases to 2d8 instead of 1d8. All right, sure, interesting. Level 18, you gain similar, I believe the same as the original druid class in 5e, you gain beast spells, which is basically while in your wild shape, you can cast spells in beast form, except for any spell that has a material component with a cost specified or that consumes its material component. So now you can cast your spells in your beast form. So turn into an eagle and fly around indefinitely and just have fun raining hellfire or thunderstorms down on your enemies while you cackle from up above. It's awesome. One of the best things. Level 19, you gain your epic boon. And of course, at level 20, you gain what was probably, in essence, one of, if not the most powerful 20th level ability, I think, back in the old 5th edition, is your Archdruid. Let's see how it stacks up. The new level 20 Archdruid ability feature is the vitality of nature constantly blooms within you, granting you the following benefits. Evergreen Wild Shape. Whenever you roll initiative and have no uses of Wild Shape left, you regain one expended use of it. Not great. Not awesome. Next one is Nature Magician. You can convert uses of Wild Shape into a spell slot. No action required. Choose a number of your unexpended uses of Wild Shape and convert them into a single spell slot, with each use contributing 2 spell levels. For example, if you convert 2 uses of Wild Shape, you produce a level 4 spell slot. Once you use this benefit, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Again, not awesome. Longevity, the primal magic that you wield causes you to age more slowly. For every 10 years that pass, your body ages only 1 year. So this was basically that's just the same thing as the original. You got that same ability at 18th level for the original druid. It's just called Timeless Body back then. Which ironically they also called they used the same name for a monk ability back in the day, but it functioned differently for some reason, but they were both called Timeless Body, which was really a weird and stupid. But whatever, okay. You still at least get that. Personally, I love that. Like I love that flavor for druids that just gives them the ability to live ungodly amounts of time, even if you're normally just like a a normal human who can only live probably about around 80 to 100 years on average. Now you might be able to live like 800 years as a druid. Um, so, you know, definitely compared to the original level 20 Archdruid ability, this is pretty shit, honestly. Like it's not horrible, but it's also kind of bad. Like as a 20th level ability, it's kind of just meh, if anything. Like yeah, like yeah, you know. Especially again, like just take a really quick second with me to kind of just go off on memory lane here for a second with the old Archdruid. The original 5th edition Archdruid 20th level ability was you could use your wild shape an unlimited number of times at this point. Additionally, you can ignore the verbal and somatic components of all your druid spells, as well as any material components that lack a cost and aren't consumed by a spell. You gain this benefit in both your normal shape and your beast shape from wild shape. That shit right there was badonker conquer blunker honkers. You know what I'm saying? Like that shit, that's a 20th level ability where you're like, you're kind of god, you're a literal godly nature spirit at that point. That's amazing. Compared to this one here, this is just kind of like, I get it. They absolutely vastly wanted to nerf druids, but this 100% is a nerf. Like this, what they replaced it with is eh. Yeah, it's just meh, you know. Um, Especially considering, like depending on what you chose and took before, they did give you like, a little bit better stuff. They gave you a couple of more features here or there at level, 15 and level 7, like, but they're not that great. Like, I would definitely say for just the baseline druid, they most likely have nerfed it a bit.
Yeah.
Um, But I wouldn't say that's an overall bad thing because again, Druid was always one of the most busted classes back in the day, even without it being like Circle of the Moon specifically the subclass. Like even just baseline Druid, with other classes subclasses was still kind of crazy powerful. Um, and even now, again, don't get me wrong, I think Druid probably is still pretty crazy goddamn powerful. Um, What do you think, Sammy, of just baseline Drew before we get into the subclass real quick?
I mean, so it's obvious that it came from a nerfing perspective. Um, I will say
A lot of people were very upset, for sure.
I I don't see it's that bad. If in all honesty, the main issue was wild shape. It always has been.
It was either
Um,
way too powerful for the Moon Druid or just not really viable for any other
yeah,
Druid.
and
Like,
and so what they did was they made it so like it's not as effective, and in doing so, hopefully this means that some of the other parts of the druid can shine a little bit more. I believe when I read through Circle of the Moon, it's still a viable way to play the game. Um, the wild or the elemental fury being a baseline thing as opposed to just a Circle of the Moon thing means that like you can technically
if
still
you
do it.
want,
I
you could.
wouldn't.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't really. I think honestly, the Elemental Fury aspect kind of just sucks, like all
well,
around,
not
because like.
not really. I mean,
Well, I mean, because again,
it's not great,
you
but
you
if
get an extra. Like, here's the issue, right? Because like I said, for druids, I don't know how many druids you've played. I know one of your favorite was a druid. I also really love druid. Like I've played one of my favorite characters was a druid, and it's like there are a couple of decent, um, druid like offensive druid cantrips, but you're mostly gonna kind of be using. I think most of your druid cantrips like environmental wise, or for exploration, traversal, like shape water, mold earth, Druidcraft, like, and again, you could get like I guess things like what is it? Not Conjure Flame, but it's like
Control flame.
yeah, maybe not even control because yeah, it's like where it's like the one where you can pop a flame in your hand and it like lights up, or you can choose to like fire it too. Um, I
I
forget
think it is
exactly what it's
control
called.
flame.
That might be Control Flame. Um,
But the reality is,
but that's not really a powerful attack. It's like 30 feet. You get like Primal Savagery, which is very powerful, but it's,
have they added more druid cantrips though?
that is a good question. I haven't looked
So
over
let's
the
see. If I go to
druids.
spells and I go to
Yeah, let's
go to
check
druid,
out druid spells real quick
druid
and see.
cantrips. Let's see if they added
Um,
any good ones because they might have. That's
they might have
also
added some more. If that is the case, then like yeah, like I like that would be. Let's see. We want cantrips.
oh, dude, you can do
Concussion. Okay.
mending. No, not mending. Magic stone. Just do magic stone.
This is magic stuff. Yeah, control flames. Yes, that is the one where it's like
Oh, starry wisp. That's a new one.
Starry Wisp. What does that do? You can do mending. You can also do mend plants now. Oh no, never mind. That's Humblewood. Um,
I mean, thorn whip's still there.
Thorn Whip is
Well, you
nice.
can
It's
give it
true.
a range of 300 feet.
That is true. That's kind of insane. Produce flame.
Um,
That's the spell. Produce flame is the
produce
one.
flame, create bonfire,
And it's
change
a
the
bonus
form.
action now. Okay.
Um,
Although you still technically have to use an action to hurl the fire. Although they did make it 60 feet now. Produce flame used to be 30 feet to attack. Now it's 60 feet, but now obviously it can be 300 feet. So, um,
um, poison
and
spray.
you could add your spellcasting modifier. So if your wisdom is like, you'd add a plus
I mean,
5 to that damage.
they have stuff with that buff. They have stuff that's just as good as anyone else. Like poison spray is good, except for the fact that it's poison. Starry
I was gonna
wisp is
say
good. Um,
Starry Wisp. Let's see. You launch a mode of 60 feet. Okay. You launch a mode of light at one creature or object. On a hit, 1d8 until it emits dim light. Okay. So it's just, yeah, it's a d8. Like, again, yeah, like they're not terrible, to be fair. It does get a little bit more. Thorn Whip is great. Because you can pull an enemy, 10 feet closer to you. Um, if it's large or smaller. They
yeah.
have oh never mind. No, I was gonna say that's from something else again. Shillelagh was always decent if you're up close and personal. But then again, you could probably just use you could just switch that to what the other thing, the primal thingy or
Well, if you want to
whatever.
be in melee, well, the problem is you
Yeah.
can't have both.
Yeah.
So
So again, it depends on how often you're going into your wild shape or if you're more of a spellcaster. Like
yeah, which for me, Druid was always I always treated them as a spellcaster.
same.
Wild shape for me was more of a
It was utility to
it was
fly
utility
or to infiltrate places
or
easier
nowadays a
or
lot of the
escape.
subclasses could use the wild shape to do other things,
Yeah, that
not turn
too.
into a monster. It was like
Yeah,
yeah, it's
not turn
different.
into a beast. So yeah, I mean, so there are a few. There are a few.
I
Uh,
think you're gonna want to read through Circle of the Sea before you
that is
because
fair.
I think this is gonna go really well with that
Fair
with
enough.
focusing on more of a spellcaster.
Then with that, let's go ahead. We're going to talk about, as Sam has just let it slip. We're going to be talking about the newest subclass. This is a brand new subclass that was not introduced before, known as Circle of the Sea. Uh, Druids of the Circle of the Sea draw on the tempestuous forces of oceans and storms. Some view themselves as embodiments of nature's wrath, seeking vengeance against those who despoil nature. Others seek mystical unity with nature by attuning themselves to the ebb and flow of the tides, following the rush of currents and waves, and listening to the inscrutable whispers and roars of the winds. At level 3, once you get this subclass, you can access to a couple more spells, which is great. Again, it expands your spell list a bit. Right at level 3, you gain access to Fog Cloud, Gust of Wind, Ray of Frost, Shatter, and Thunder Wave. These are all pretty damn good. These are all like middle to fucking pretty awesome spells. Right at level 3, which is phenomenal. Level 5, you gain access to both Lightning Bolt and Water Breathing, both of which are decent. Definitely, not incredible. It's very situational for both, but highly amazing just to have those as free additions to your spell list. At level 7, you gain Control Water and Ice Storm. Both phenomenal spells. We love both of those quite a bit. And at level 9, you gain Conjure Elemental and Hold Monster. Again, both of those pretty decent. Another thing you get at level 3 once you get this is Wrath of the Sea. As a bonus action, you can expend a use of your wild shape to manifest a 5-foot emanation that takes the form of ocean spray that surrounds you for 10 minutes. It ends early if you dismiss it. If you dismiss it, no action required. You manifest it again or have the incapacitated condition. When you manifest the emanation, and as a bonus action on your subsequent turns, you can choose another creature you can see that is in the emanation. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC or take cold damage, and if the creature is large or smaller, be pushed up to 15 feet away from you. To determine this damage, roll a number of D6 was equal to your Wisdom modifier. That's
But
great.
This is a defensive, like, basically you turn it on and everything within 5 feet of you, if it gets up close to you, gets pushed away and damaged.
Yeah.
Like, and it stays active. So this is like kind of a deterrent to keep people from getting into close combat with you.
Yeah, and this is
really
specifically the damage is determined by your Wisdom modifier. Meaning if you have a 20 Wisdom right at that level 3, you're dealing 5d6 worth of damage to this creature. That's kind of crazy. To be fair, though, if they make the saving throw, they don't take the damage or are pushed away. So it's a save or suck. But if they fail it, not only are they getting pushed up to 15 feet away from you, they're taking potentially 5d6 worth of damage. And this is obviously as a bonus action, too. Like, you can just bonus action do this. And druids don't really have a lot of bonus actions besides, wild shape and maybe a few other spells here or there down the line. But not really, especially at this level. Your wild shape is really the only other bonus action you really have at this point. And if you're going to expend a use of it anyway for this, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Let's see. Level 6. Aquatic Affinity. Once you achieve level 6, you gain the Aquatic Affinity ability that allows you to... The size of the emanation created by your Wrath of the Sea increases to 10 feet. In addition, you gain a swim speed equal to your speed. So it just basically increases your Wrath of the Sea ability to 10 feet, just doubles its distance, which, again, it's not amazing, but not terrible either. And you get a swim speed, which, unfortunately, swim speeds, again, unless you're in a very specific environment, don't really matter. But at level 10, you get the ability known as Stormborn. Your Wrath of the Sea confers 2 more benefits while active. You gain a flying speed equal to your speed while your Wrath of the Sea is active. You also gain resistance to cold, lightning, and thunder damage. Holy shit. Okay. Now that's what we're talking about right there. All right. That's more like it. Okay. Level 10, you kind of become like a literal storm god almost, like a storm demigod. That's kind of crazy work right there.
It keeps going, though.
Yeah. All right. Level 14, you gain access to the ability known as Oceanic Gift. Now, instead of manifesting the emanation of Wrath of the Sea around yourself, you can instead manifest it around one willing creature within 60 feet. That creature gains all the benefits of the emanation and uses your spell save DC and wisdom modifier for it. In addition, you can manifest the emanation around both the other creature and yourself if you expend 2 uses of your wild shape instead of 1 when manifesting it. That is kind of insane.
You can
give it to a barbarian.
You can give it to a barbarian, and
take
then
it yourself, and you could push them back and forth between the two of you within.
Well, no. Well, let's see.
You also gain the ability to fly and have resistance to cold, lightning, and thunder damage. And also, obviously, you gain access to swim speed too.
I wonder. So here's the deal: when you're in addition, you can manifest the emanation around. So the emanation is just the swim speed, flying, and resistance is only for you, right?
I think technically only maybe the swim speed is just for you, but the flying and the resistance would be for both. Would be for you and whoever you gave it to. Because it's specifically for Stormborn. It says, your Wrath of the Sea confers 2 more benefits while active.
Oh, no.
So
Oh no,
technically
no, no, no.
the
It is for both because it says it in
yeah,
the fucking ability. I'm
yeah,
stupid.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
reason the way I say that is because the only thing you'd want to make sure you're doing it to yourself as well so that you get to fly away. But you
Well, I
could give
mean,
it to yourself and your front line, and then
you wouldn't
you could
necessarily
fly
even.
away, and then they can just have all that and attack people.
Well, you don't even have to fly away because it's not a it's not like it's concentration. It just
No, no, no,
lasts for
no,
10
not that.
minutes.
I meant but the fly speed and the resistance. You
Yeah.
want to make sure you have that on yourself
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're a
yeah.
spellcaster. So giving them the emanation, I was like, do you lose? Do you also get it on yourself?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, I would
You
just
get all of it for yourself. I think again, I think the only thing technically that the your friend wouldn't get would be the swim speed because it doesn't specifically say that you get a swim speed by activating it. It just says
yeah.
you just gain a swim speed at level 6 in addition to your whatever. Um, but that is a very power. I mean, again, it's a little bit of a one trick pony where it's like you literally just get it's just this one ability that basically just gets
Yeah,
stronger
but
progressively.
you're a full spellcaster with some of the biggest area of effect spells in the entire game.
It's true. It's true. Again, druids are already one of the most powerful, and again, it also doesn't say anything about the fact that you couldn't activate this ability and then transform, or technically you could also transform and then activate this ability if you wanted to. Um, so I mean, like it definitely is a very powerful ability once it gets up there, especially when you get to Stormborn, and then on top of the fact you can then bequeath it to like a friend who again already has all their own shit. Like give it to a fighter or a barbarian who doesn't already have like flying some way to fly and resistance to cold, lightning, and thunder damage. To be fair, to be fair, I will say I love the fact it gives you all three of those resistances. However, they are also some of the least encountered elements in the game, unless they have made a lot of changes to certain monsters and enemies and stuff that you fight, or unless obviously you're in a very specific type of campaign environment. Yo, Rime of the Frost Maiden, this druid would fucking slap ass. Like this druid would fucking dominate in Rime of the Frost Maiden. Um, Except of course the emanation would deal cold damage, so that wouldn't be as effective. But the fact that you gain resistance, flying, and whatever would be phenomenal. But obviously, you know, if you're going to the nine hells, this probably doesn't have unless you're going to a specific layer of the nine hells, specifically Stygia, you would not have much use for this. So, you know, in essence, what would you give this subclass, Sammy? Both the current druid compared to the old, as well as this subclass. What would be your rating for them?
I, I mean the old druid was really good.
One
Um,
of the best classes in the game, no doubt about it. It was.
I like this new druid. I think there's gonna be some growing pains and some people that are like, but
Yeah, a
why?
lot of people were very controversial, especially about how wild shape works now.
Which I understand.
Sure, yeah, I get it.
I'm not gonna pretend like that doesn't.
We can't pretend like it's not a nerf. There is absolutely, like you said, they approach this from a very nerf heavy perspective. Um, but
But
yeah,
I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing.
agreed.
Um, I think there's a lot that the problem is that it was just really, really good. And
The
there
Moon
wasn't
Druid, especially, was just
yeah, and
really,
like
really good.
Druid is one of those it was a very powerful class anyway, and I think that their entire goal for this new remake, rework, whatever you want to refer to it as, I think a lot of it has to do with just trying to make things more even for everyone.
Mm.
And so I think they've definitely gotten closer to that. Um we'll see how far that goes and like what that really does for gameplay the longer this stuff is out. I can't speak from experience in that aspect until what that really does for everything. But I don't I don't dislike the ideas put across for this. I don't know, I don't think it's bad by any means. I think it's still a very competent class.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's one of the primary spellcasters, that will always mean that with the ability to access spells, especially like ninth level spell, like you're always gonna have a lot of firepower for sure and ability. Um, I'm looking over a little bit of the Circle of the Moon, the new Circle of the Moon subclass, and it's while clearly not as powerful as before, not nearly, it still seems to be a very powerful subclass for the Druid. Like you were saying before. So those of you who are curious, again, we're probably going to save talking about the rest of the subclasses for another video, to kind of really get into the more meat of it. Uh, but overall, yeah, what would you rate the current Druid, Sammy?
Honestly, from what I can see with the new, with like even just from the ocean, like I think this is gonna end up still being a more powerful class than a lot of the others. Um,
Probably like A minus, A,
yeah, I'd
like,
say A minus. Obviously, there's gonna be some growing pains and some figuring out of like what people want to do with it now.
yeah, how it
Um,
works, certain optimizations and stuff. I would agree. I'd say at least base druid, I'd probably give yeah, probably like a B plus to A minus, I would think. Um, and then to be fair, we haven't played it yet, so like that I might change my tune depending on how it actually maybe feels and functions actually playing it. I would give Circle of the Sea subclass probably like a B, I think.
yeah,
I think it's probably like a B subclass. Again, it's just they clearly had just one idea in mind. It was just the Wrath of the Sea. And while it can be super crazy powerful in the right situation and environment, it kind of instantly loses almost all of its benefits and its biggest things if you're not in the right environment at all. Like again, if you're in the hells or somewhere that has no amount of lightning, cold, or thunder damage, you know, it kind of loses a huge aspect to it, which is kind of just like, okay, you still get the flight and the swim speed, but again, if you're not in a place with water, swim speed useless, doesn't mean anything. Uh, being able to push enemies away from you with a bonus action if they fail a save, they'll take. Hopefully your wisdom is maxed out. They'll take 5d6 damage. This decent. It always will be decent, but the fact that it's a save or suck also vastly limits that. So I'd say it's probably like a solid B. Hell, I might even give it a C because it's just so heavily dependent on environment and situation. It's so heavily situational, unfortunately. So I might have to give it kind of just like a mid tier kind of thing here.
I think in play though, this could be quite ridiculous.
Agreed. If
Um,
the right requirements are met, it would be absolutely godly. It would fucking decimate and shred. Um, but with that being said, why don't you go ahead and take us out now, Sammy? Unless you got any other thoughts and comments on
no,
on the
I think you went out.
2024 5.5
I think we
Druid.
went through it quite well today. Yeah, any of y'all who stick around, enjoy, please let us know if there's any fun bullshit you've discovered within the new subclasses, because that's always my favorite
Yeah, I was gonna say we
theory
we
crafting.
love all of the little
Um,
loopholes you can find.
but thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed our discussion of the 2024 new subclasses slash classes.
Despite how messy
Um,
it was here or
yeah,
there.
whatever.
Yeah.
And Adam said this before, but if you like what we do here, leave a like or subscribe. We appreciate it. Um, please comment about literally anything. It could just be what we had for breakfast. I don't really care. I'd be happy to read. So thank you so much for tuning in. It's fun for us as always, and hopefully you will join us into the next dive into the archives. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, y'all. Have a great one. Yeah, well done.